नमस्कार, जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेव टॉक्स। दिस इज आदि अचिंत। मेरे साथ हैं लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल राज शुक्ला हु विल टेल अस कि भाई जियोपॉलिटिक्स इज अ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट जंक्चर। पाकिस्तान, चाइना, सऊदी, पता नहीं एवरीवेयर देयर इज सम न्यूज़ कमिंग आउट। दिस seldom a day and एक छोटी सी saying है कि भाई there are years when nothing happens and then there are days when decades happen. We live in days like this. Sir ji, namaskar. Welcome to the show.
Namaskar, Adi. How are you?
Absolutely wonderful, sir. I hope you agree with what I said with regards to days and decades, sir.
Yeah, except that quote by Lenin is that there are weeks when decades happen.
Yeah, but I twisted it a little bit.
Okay, so if you're
Today,
saying that, if you're
because
saying
of
that, you're the modern Lenin. That's even more true.
social media, sir, today
Oh, you're right.
things change.
Weeks. You're right. You're right.
It
Weeks and
just
decades.
changes so fast. Yeah. So let's start with the H1B, which is a really hot topic. You know, when initially the tariffs thing started off, everybody started mapping what are the weapons. क्या क्या चीजें हैं ट्रम्प के पास क्या क्या कर सकता है यार टैरिफ लगाएगा यहाँ ब्लॉक कर सकता है सैंक्शन करेगा H1B पे आएगा उसके बाद दो और स्टेप्स हैं एक काटसा है and then after that Ambani, Adani and all that stuff you start with the same old nonsense that you do. Where do you see the relationship today and is this an escalation or is this something that he had planned he's just doing it now?
You know, I'm a big votary of what is called grand strategy. अब इंडिया में ग्रैंड स्ट्रेटजी की बात करो लोग बोलते हैं यार थ्योरी मार रहा है. But let me explain to you in context of what you asked, why is it so important and how is it playing out? तो ये ट्रम्प और मागा कैंप की ग्रैंड स्ट्रेटजी क्या है? I think I've said it on your show, definitely on Barkha's show, and I said it many. I mean, it's not a great prophecy, but just something that struck me. मागा में you must watch a guy called Steve Bannon. In fact, उसको बुलाओ अपने show. You may disagree with him. I disagree with him a lot, but he is a क्या कहते हैं उसको 400 or 800 watt intellectual. He has a set of beliefs. And note the second point. What Bannon says today, Lutnick parrots 6 months later, and Trump does it 3 months later. Okay. Last year I heard him make this argument, or perhaps in January, where he said, देखो ये जो H1B का खेल है. Now I don't agree with him. I'm just telling you what he's saying. He says this is a lie manufactured by American companies to get cheap talent from outside. Americans are as talented. ये उसका argument है. Therefore, it has to go. So I don't think it is specifically India. When you are saying $100,000, what are you saying? That if the company actually thinks that this Indian is worth $100,000, that he's truly talented, only then will he come to America. उससे कम talent वाले जो vacancies हैं, they can be easily filled by Americans from our universities, so jobs will be given, this, that. ये Bannon का कहना है. As an Indian, I may disagree, but as an American, does it make sense? Perhaps it does. And it just so happens that out of H1B, India is about 70% of the guys who utilize the H1B. तो एक तो ये यथार्थ है. The second point is, in some ways, it is good. Like as people like Harsh Madhusudan Gupta and all are arguing, why is it good? Why are our talented Indians leaving? They are leaving because the ecosystem in India does not allow talent to thrive. Mediocrity takes its place. I think on your show, I've quoted Kishore Mehbubani, who said that if the Indian ecosystem allows the Indian in India to operate at 25% of productivity levels of the Indian in the United States, India's GDP will be $25 trillion. तो हमको भी झटका चाहिए. Why are these talented? Why should Satya Nadella have gone abroad? Why should he have not studied here and got a great job in India and developed us? So ये दो arguments. That is one part. H1B is the latest arrow in his quiver. दूसरा, I think आपके शो पे हम बात कर चुके हैं. Trump and MAGA they're anti-globalists. So they come from a different lot which is against globalization. तो ये जो क्लिंटन और ये सब लोग थे, Obama, they were the globalists, as he calls them, in a derogatory manner. They said that countries across the globe must connect. In connection lies prosperity. ट्रम्प का आर्ग्यूमेंट ये है कि उस कनेक्शन में the rich in USA have prospered. The common American, the common Joe has not prospered. So we must deglobalize. अब deglobalize कैसे करो? Tariff बढ़ाकर. America is retreating to the Western Hemisphere, I have no doubt, for two reasons. One, to heal its economy, to repair its military. Its military is in a pretty bad state. He doesn't want a huge military which does not win any war. It has lost every war since Afghanistan. Therefore, that whole bit of Department of War, they have quoted this, ki, don't tell me legal niceties. I just want to win the wars. So I want combat prowess. So to repair the military, to repair the economy, retreat to the Western Hemisphere. Western Hemisphere में जहां चाइना के साथ competition है, Greenland, Panama Canal, वहां पे उससे लड़ो. But in the other areas, he concedes spheres of influence. So in my view, he is conceding the containment of Russia to Europe, the containment of China in the Western Pacific to Japan, Korea, in South Asia to India. भाई तुम्हारे झंझट है, तुम लड़ो. So he's taking a trader's view of the world, not a strategic view of the world. This is the whole second issue. और उसमें all he sees is these kind of profits, 100,000. जो ट्रम्प गोल्ड कार्ड के बारे में सुना है, वो तो I think it is $1 million. उसका ये भाई पैसे हैं तो आओ. तो पहले यूएसए का था, the whole project was the American dream. Raj Shukla could be a poor immigrant. Shyam Shankar could be the son of a very poor Tamilian. But go to USA and resurrect his dream. अब वो कह रहा है वो नहीं, आप या तो यूएसए में तब आएंगे जब आपके जेब में पैसे हो, या आप तब आएंगे जब आप रियली टैलेंटेड हो, पॉलीमैथ काइंड, नॉट राज शुक्ला आईटी. तो ये पूरा मेरे ख्याल से खेल है. और उसमें अगर भारत कहीं पिस रहा है, बिकॉज इट्स द व्यू इज अस्ट्रेटेजिक, ही डजंट वैल्यू इंडिया in that it must contain China. So that is one part of the larger grand strategy. और उसमें जो दो तीन छोटी छोटी चीजें हुई हैं, ये फ्लैटरी टैक्स और ट्रम्प को नोबेल प्राइज के लिए नॉमिनेट नहीं किया और उसको वो सीज फायर का क्रेडिट नहीं दिया, ये मसले भी उसमें जुड़ गए हैं. बट ओवरऑल, I mean, one thing has to be considered that our foreign policy challenges have grown. We've run into some kind of bad luck. मुश्किलें हैं, but this is the challenge of nations. And I always say that India does well best when it is on the back foot. So like 1991 was engineered this economic overall. Could these things have come? Let's now do a strategic overall and realize कि भाई ये मुश्किलें हैं और क्या करें. And though I hate to say it, Pakistan has run into some kind of good luck and also played some of its cards well. I'm referring to this defense pact with Saudi Arabia. So that's my opening, ambit. आपके जो आगे प्रश्न है बताइए.
Sir, Pakistan has played its cards well, or Pakistan has been played by cards?
अब ये देखो यार, कुछ तो हुआ है. देखो, it has either they have understood Trump better, or see, India's size doesn't allow it. Our weight doesn't allow us to behave like Pakistan. वो क्रिप्टो करेंसी में कुछ कर लिया, कुछ फ्लैटरी कर ली, और कुछ तो है, in this whole defense pact business, what has happened? I think, the Saudis have always been worried. एक तो यार मेरे को ये समझ में नहीं आता, I've never understood. What is the point of all this Arab GCC wealth? If some of it you can't convert to some military combat prowess. जो दोहा कतार पे अटैक हुआ, why blame the Americans? Where was your AD? एक मिसाइल नहीं फायर की यार. इसी I and you are in a boxing ring and you keep punching me और मैं आपको जवाब ही ना दूं कुछ, तो रेफरी क्या कर लेगा? Anyway, so that's one part of the story. So these rich Arab GCC countries don't have a combat tradition. So they always look for military partners, and Pakistan के साथ उनकी पुरानी कहानी है. Zia-ul Haq, I remember, commanded a brigade based in Saudi Arabia. उसके बाद ये जब इनके sanctions लगे थे न्यूक्लियर टेस्ट के बाद, The Saudis gave Pakistanis 550,000 barrels of oil free for 2 years. They have given them handsome economic packages. तो एक तो वो है that Islamist factor and all. And see, इसमें मैं एक और चीज जोड़ दूं. Samuel Huntington ने जो कहा था ना, clash of civilizations. The world is also acquiring some of this civilizational religious outlook in its international affairs. Trump has been talking of white Christians, the Islamist world. ऐसा भी कुछ मेरे ख्याल से हो रहा है. And when this Qatar thing happened, though I'm told this deal has been in the works for 3 years now. ये चीजें ऐसे नहीं होती हैं, लंबी चर्चा थी. But I think this whole Qatar thing has been the final nail in the coffin. Or
I want
Saudi
to,
Arabia. Yeah.
if you don't mind, I want to show you something, sir.
Yeah, please.
Just a second. I'll just load it on my screen and I'll kind of show it to you. This is a book written by Bob Woodward. It's called War. I've actually
Wow.
just finished.
I also, yes, I also read in some article yesterday.
Yes, sir. So this is, I've got the book with me, and
Yeah,
he says
exactly. I'll just buy one from Pakistan. Yeah.
you just buy one from Pakistan, right? Now this is one, sir. Let's leave this apart. I have another piece of evidence that I'm going to show you, and you're a military general. You'll be able to actually be kind enough to help me here. So I do a lot of OSINT on maps, sir. Right. So I went to this place called Khanpur nuclear site in Pakistan. Right. And I saw this. I saw a structure here, and I saw these underground bunkers and all that stuff here. This is a double fenced area with guard towers and everything like that. So this is Khanpur. This is AQ Khan's game. Now when I zoom out of here and go into right in the middle of the desert in Saudi Arabia, I see the same structure there. Exact same structure, right? And rumor has it that before Trump came into the picture, the Chinese, Pakistanis got together and got this done for the Saudis. They call this a rocket testing site. This is allegedly the rocket testing stand. I don't see black smoke or soot anywhere. So I don't know what testing they've done here. And these are these underground tunnels. So there is obviously something under these mountains. You see these tunnels here, sir?
Yeah.
So there is something, as you are saying, that this is not a deal which has come overnight. This is a deal which has happened over time. What do you think this deal entails?
Yes. Now, so that's the whole point. See, if I'm somebody in Saudi and I'm now looking for a security option, so what are the options before me? ईरान की तो बुरी हालत है, वैसे भी वो शिया है. Egypt at one time was a military, shall we say, state to reckon with. उसकी इकोनॉमी का इतना बुरा हाल है कि economically it's dependent on Saudi Arabia. Turkey plays it both ways. You don't know. कभी वो नेटो के साथ खेलता है, कभी इस्लामिक वर्ल्ड के साथ खेलता है. और दूसरी बात है वो सुन्नी है, so it's a competitor. So the only option is Pakistan. And now I wonder, is nuclear the new oil? तो सऊदी अरेबिया के पास तेल है. पाकिस्तान का डिफेंस बजट इज $9 billion. We are $90 billion. I think the Saudis are $130 billion. But ये जो nuclear weapons हैं, they seem to have, they are a powerful factor and the combat tradition of Pakistan, because it seems to be the only Islamist country which has got a military of some standing. But let's not debate this nuclear bit. Yesterday I was watching a chap called General Tariq Khan. He's not one of those usual Paki generals. He's one of the better ones. थोड़ा सा वो दिमाग लगाता है. So he was saying, and I quite agree with him. He says Pakistan's nuclear weapons, the nuclear shield cannot be extended to Saudi Arabia. अगर nuclear shield extend की, तो पाकिस्तान का ईरान वाला हाल होगा. They are signatories to various international agreements, and these B2s will come and take them out. So I don't think they can do that. But एक psychologically तो ये है कि भाई एक nuclear power उसके साथ खड़ी है. And see, while today it may be appearing to be good, if India and Israel do a deal, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia तो खोखली है. What happens to Pakistan, Saudi Arabia? So these are early days. People have got some euphoria. But On the larger issue, Adi, I just want to discuss with you, will it not be a good thing to do some kind of deal with Israel? It seems to be the only option today. Americans तो दगा दिए जा रहे हैं. Russia is in its problems of its own. And let me today one discuss with you about Russia. To see, Russia has been a very reliable friend, no doubt. काफी मदद की उसने हमको 71 वगैरह में, but इसको जरा आप रिसर्च करो. The PLA's first phase of growth was entirely through Russian collaboration, or greatly through Russian collaboration, military collaboration. फिर अभी यूक्रेन में चीन ने इतनी मदद की है रशिया की, from chips to CNC equipment, you say things like drone engines and all. Russia is really grateful because China helped it to pull out of the woods. अब जो रशिया चाइना को दे रहा है, that is 5th and 6th generation aircraft engines, fighter submarines, missilery. The latter three it has not given to India. तो हम जो हैं, हमको ये जो हाई एंड टेक्नोलॉजीज हैं, ना अमेरिकन से मिली है, ना रशियन से मिली है. If Israel, I mean, Pahalgam, it was the only one that stood by us. It was the only one that stood by us pretty equivocally. So, is it not a good option? Israel से हमको ये सारी जो targeting technologies हैं, EW, cyberspace, 8200, 9300, should this Pakistan-Saudi pact force us to consider this option? अमेरिका से तो कोई गारंटीज नहीं है, रशिया अपनी मुश्किलों में, और रशिया ने दी भी नहीं है हाई एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, if we are honest about it. So I was just thinking Israel may not be a bad bet. So, but the larger issue is, what you began with. This is a time when geopolitics is swiveling every day, every hour. And we have to be really agile, quick thinking. That last bit is a weakness with us. We are not as agile. For example, Pakistan, Saudi Arabian, if somebody had been studying it in depth, it should not have come to us as a surprise. Certainly not as a jolt or a bolt. It shouldn't have been that. If we were studying the MAGA camp very seriously, it should have been clear to us that on certain issues there will be no compromises. H1B, visas, the tariffs, उसपे तो Trump ने कोई compromise नहीं किया. And so this is my only quarrel with us, that we are not agile enough. We are a little slow, reactive. We should be setting the trend. And the last point, Ambassador Kantha made this point to me. It really resonated with me. He said, यार हमारा जो strategic autonomy है ना, उसका एक ही purpose होना चाहिए. Capacity, capacity, capacity. जहां से कुछ मिले करो. You must read this book if you have not already seen it. I just got it here last night. Dang Wang ki kitab hai Breakneck. He's talking of the Chinese engineering mindset, which makes them build at breakneck speed. And the opening line says that China is what it is today because of its engineering mindset. I mean, all these guys, Hu Jintao and all, they've all been engineers, which makes it create capacities at breakneck speed. Why it has beaten the United States is because USA is a country of lawyers, which has been opposing, obstructing for the last 3 decades. He gives a great example. He says 2008 May, the Americans decided to connect San Francisco with Los Angeles through high-speed rail. The same year, China decided to connect Beijing and Shanghai through high-speed rail. The Chinese completed their project in 2011. जो अमेरिकन प्रोजेक्ट है अभी भी कोर्ट्स में घूम रही है. 2030 इज द ऑब्जेक्शन आफ्टर ऑब्जेक्शन. हमारे यहाँ भी एक किताब थी ना, वो फिल्म निकली थी अक्षय कुमार की, डेट पर डेट, तारीख पर तारीख. So this whole loyalty tradition, India also is pretty weak at capacity building. So instead of speculating कि भाई हम इसके साथ जाएं, उसके साथ जाएं, किसी के साथ जाओ यार, be as promiscuous as possible, as long as you get your capacities going.
I mean, I don't agree with this whole iske saath uske saath, sir, for any reason. And our game has been iske saath with everybody. So हम लोग इधर भी कर रहे हैं, उधर भी कर रहे हैं, and we've been able to. I guess with that China के साथ जो आपके relations अभी बन रहे हैं, which is pretty good. You're coming to a point where they are saying that, okay, yaar, you don't disturb me in these things. You are saying, okay, you don't disturb me in these things. Let's come to a mutual agreement and calm this thing down.
So let's discuss.
Yes, sir.
So let's discuss this. So look at multi-alignment. Very good. or I mean, as a strategy, it's very good. But if multi-alignment has resulted in dependencies on China in manufacturing, dependencies on energy, with on Russia, and dependencies on high tech with USA, your multi-alignment is not what it should have been.
Hmm.
That is the whole problem. We have made attempts, but you look at our great dependency on China and see there is a reason now that you have raised it is very good. What should we do to break this off? The CDS should tell the government, or the government to tell the CDS, कि देखो यार LAC में अब सारा तुमने rebalancing कर दिया. Put some technologies, take some money from us, but please make sure there is no longer any failure of deterrence along the LAC, fail-proof deterrence. Because the Sino-Indian relationship cannot be premised on deterrence failures. जब हमारी ब्रॉडर रिलेशनशिप ब्लॉसम करती है, LAC में फेलियर होता है, फिर हम कहते हैं नहीं, हम ट्रेड भी नहीं करेंगे, हम ये नहीं कर सकते, वो नहीं कर सकते. So that is the whole point. So in that sense, if we can ensure, if our broader relationship breaks free of these deterrence breakdowns along the LAC, then what you're saying is right. But that is really not happening. Multi-alignment is a smart strategy. In fact, as you were saying, strategic autonomy also means that it is to milk everybody in your national interest. But it is not. See, let me now today come to the defense of the diplomats. सब लोग कहते हैं साहब foreign policy failure. अरे भाई, the foreign diplomats can only succeed if you give them some leverages. If there are LAC breakdowns along the LAC, if you are so dependent on them for all your products, अब हम जहां इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर शुरू करते हैं along the LAC, वो बोरिंग मशीन देना बंद कर देता. So why have we got so dependent on them? We have to break free. That is the point I mean.
Yeah. So when you come to looking at the global structure right now, and the we said, we are a good strong power center, global south हमारे साथ में है, and this and that. हमने ये सब चीजें बोली थी. But then the world used to recognize it, but shruggingly, इधर उधर, they would just kind of brush it off. But interestingly, tariff ka game was, and a lot of Western analysts and a lot of these writers and commentators and thinkers and all that, everybody said, yeah, world order has changed. Right? And they've said, ki, India, although not a great power, even John Mearsheimer said this, not a great power, but India is on its way and it's been able to actually project its power with Trump, which is good. Okay, fair enough. We did that. When you look at this churn right now from the older order to the newer order, where you've kind of rung the bell of multipolarity, where Trump's America is receding, Russia, China, India, global south, they're kind of expanding this thing. The Middle East is trying to get together to create a voice for themselves. The Europeans are trying to get together. So there are power centers being created around the world. So that's the multipolar order, which is interesting. Now, when you see this order right now, each one of these power centers has a chaos inside it. So you've got America, which has a huge internal chaos. You've got Russia, which has the Ukraine war. You've got Europe, which has the Ukraine war. You've got Middle East, which has Israel and all that. South China Sea, which has China, India, China. So this is a recipe for disaster, or is this how a global order changes?
So how is the world changed? So let's go back right to the ancient past. From the year 1 to the year 1820 of history, the world's two leading nations were China and India.
Mhm.
Economically and civilizationally. That is a fact. The last 200 years have been an aberration. India, because of colonialism and all that kind of stuff. China, because of the 100 years of humiliation power. So in one way, what we are seeing is the end of this aberration. We are returning to what it was once. So India and China are definitely in the game. But to me, it would seem today, and we can discuss this, today it is a bipolar world between USA and China. There are other poles which are, in the offing. But in most areas, it is a fight between USA and China. You take technology, you take the military. तो ये जो हम multipolar कर रहे हैं as an aspirational thing, it is right. But
Hmm.
is it really multipolar? India is certainly an emerging pole, but it is not a pole.
Not as yet,
I
yes.
think, and we have to be a little careful here. In my view, this is the time for hide and buy.
Yeah.
शिव शंकर मेनन ने एक बात बहुत अच्छी बात कही थी that nations, that you must distinguish between influence, weight, and power. India has influence, it has weight, it has to convert this into power. Many nations in the past have, suffered ignominy because they have mistaken weight for power prematurely. ये थोड़ी nuance वाली बात है. So this is the time we have the influence and the weight. Now we should create capacities at breakneck speed, breakneck, so that we acquire power. That would be the right thing. दूसरी बात जो मैं आपसे ये मतलब अर्ज करना चाह रहा हूँ that I mean people keep telling me you keep quoting China. I said don't keep quoting China. If India had been doing better, the world would have been quoting India. But the fact is that China, look what they did on that parade here, Aadi. What are they telling the world now? They are telling the world कि बताओ किस डिपार्टमेंट में आप मुझसे लड़ो, किस डिपार्टमेंट में लड़ने के लिए तैयार हो. This global south business, when I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, India was an active leader of the global south. Non-aligned movements वगैरह ये सब conferences दिल्ली में होती थी, and our leaders we actually positioned ourselves as the global south. Then we got into this 20 odd year lean into the United States, and we distanced ourselves away from the global south, in my view. Now, this lean with United States made a lot of sense. I'm also guilty of this. I also became pretty pro-US in my whole outlook. But Trump has proven time and again that, Americans are not trustworthy. They cannot be relied upon. And in the meantime, what has happened that China's positioning of the global south is more powerful than ours. In fact, what they tell us in the power dynamic with India and China, what they are seeking to tell us is that come along with us, but in this whole business of global south and BRICS, you are number two, we are number one. Acknowledge that. इसलिए time पे वो हमको छेड़ते हैं गलवान डोकलम, that is all unsaid. But I think that is the whole power dynamic, and we have to, my view, hide and bite. जब मौका आएगा तो assert करो. So, these are the challenges before us, and there is no doubt that we have lost an opportunity over the last 2 decades or so, and China has broken far ahead of us in many of these whole, technology games and all that. So, the last point I would like to make is that, this is certainly the decline of the West. Chinese have been saying for very long, this power shift to Asia is more than apparent. Today, the ASEAN-China trade is larger than EU-USA. Europe and USA are no longer the most dynamic regions in the world. The more dynamic regions are here in Asia, in ASEAN, and so on. So I think India has to do three things. One is we have to create power in South Asia and not cede it to China. And look at the challenges here, Bangladesh, Nepal. You must read a piece by Rami Desai, I think you called her on your show, about Turkey. Turkey's neo-caliphate ambitions, it is making huge inroads in Pakistan, Bangladesh. I was surprised in Nepal.
Nepal
So
and
in
yeah.
her
So
article, she's given data to back it. तो ये टर्की है. अब देखो क्या हो गया वेस्टर्न होराइजन्स में. इट्स पाकिस्तान, चाइना, टर्की, सऊदी अरेबिया, एंड द यूएस व्हिच मे नॉट बी एज फ्रेंडली एज इन द पास्ट. बांग्लादेश में हमारी प्रॉब्लम्स हैं. So it's South Asia what is happening, that the power imbalance with China, people are taking note of it. So we have to restore some kind of power parity in South Asia, see how we can connect with ASEAN, at least in terms of trade. And of course, even to the Middle East, where IMEC and I2U2 were good things, but I think they seem to be in trouble. And overall, I will return to that point, is this time to strengthen our relationship with the Israelis.
mm. Now coming to Israel, sir. Israel is one entity which is kind of putting America to kind of a shame. I mean, the kind of recent actions where publicly, at least, America is not able to justify what's happening. So, how do you see the Middle East? And of course, India has a good balancing role there. I wonder if you're playing it covertly or whatever it is. But how do you see the change in the Middle East, especially Iran, now that with these Chabahar sanctions and this and that? यहाँ पर अभी आपका अफगानिस्तान का गेम है. Trump comes out and mentions Bagram, which is interesting. And then I was trying to put two and two together. I said, यार ये Bagram में इसने sanction ईरान पे इसने थोड़ी लगाया, because a lot of the aid goes into Afghanistan from Bagram. So he's basically trying to stop that and put some pressure on the Afghans. A day before he mentioned this, Zalmay Khalilzad and all these chaps were in what do you call, in Afghanistan. So what's the whole game, sir? This whole region seems to be kind of shifting. They tried going towards China. America is re-engaging with a lot of them, kind of putting the stick down. What's happening?
So, ये जो बगराम वाली कहानी है मैंने पहले भी सुनी है किसी से, where
Uh-huh.
Trump has been making this point. And it is not for love for Afghanistan, it is because he wants to monitor the nuclear activity of China. So the Americans do need a base here, and I'm a little surprised that they.
Left
On
it.
one thing, Trump is right that Afghan pullout was a disgrace. The manner in which they pulled out, for American part, it was a huge disgrace, and Biden really mismanaged. So from the American standpoint, they should have continued to stay in Bagram, because if they are the leading power in the world, they need to monitor these areas. And America in the past has invested so much in a footprint here. I mean, Pakistan ka salience इसी था Ziaul के आने वगैरह में, because it met many American interests. So overall, MAGA is what? MAGA is pull out, encourage regional stakeholders, perhaps Israel in the Middle East, Europe in or NATO, EU in Europe, Japan, South Korea in the Western Pacific, India here, but Western Hemisphere may consolidate America. That is the retreating, I call it a challenged retreating hegemon. They are retreating to their corner for the time being. तो दूसरी बात आपने कही ना इजराइल की, देखो ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है. व्हाई डिड इजराइल डू कतार? कतार has been playing this clever game all sides for very long. Do you know that they have so much money that they own most of London? They own about 1/3 of the Empire State Building. उनके पास पैसा इतना है कि वो खेल क्या खेलते हैं कि they have contacts with most terror organizations and with the others. So ये जो mediation का खेल है, their whole statecraft is built upon that. Now, what was happening here was that each time they promised that the hostages would be released, and then they were not released. And why they were not released? Because the two guys whom they wanted to target, the Israelis here, the real hardliners, they were not allowing the deal to happen. तो इजराइल के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ये था कि यार ये तो दो मानते ही नहीं हैं. They are not negotiators. They are the reasons why the deal is not happening, and they want those 48 hostages back. तो इन्होंने कहा चलो इस बार इनको निकाल देते हैं. If we get lucky तो ये डील हो जाएगी. We'll get our hostages back. And it is my conviction that this was nudged and winked by the Americans. वो सब पता था. They green lighted it, and if it had succeeded, it would have been a wonderful move. The tragedy is that it didn't succeed. And because it didn't succeed, it has posed new challenges for statecraft, because the Arab and GCC world is saying, the country where the Americans had the largest base, they couldn't defend Qatar. ऐसा नहीं है that they can't defend Qatar. In this case, they didn't want to. It was nudge and wink. They wanted these Hamas guys to be hit. And that didn't happen. But statecraft-wise, the Arab GCC world is saying, who is our guarantor? These Americans can't be trusted. And if the Americans can't be trusted, who steps in? Pakistan is the poor man's choice. But what I keep wondering is that, the true test of China is going to come. What is the true test of China? China ने अभी तक इकोनॉमी में तरक्की की है, टेक्नोलॉजी बढ़ाई है, it has sorted out its, it's the state of domestic affairs. It has not committed Chinese military power. And the true test of a great power comes when you commit your military. अब वो मिडिल ईस्ट में कब तक ये खेल खेलते रहेंगे, कब तक बचते रहेंगे, कभी तो उसका इस्तेमाल करना पड़ेगा. और जब इस्तेमाल करते हैं तब स्टेट क्राफ्ट की चैलेंजेस हैं, तब प्रॉब्लम्स हैं. We saw the great problems America has had in winning wars all over the world. So it's, true test will come. And I think it was Condoleezza Rice who said that, great powers cannot mind their own business. So Trump साहब का ये जो सपना है ना, that we retreat to the western your own corner, you will retreat fine, आपका पैसे वैसे बनेंगे, but you will cease to be a great power. And China's test will be, as it grows militarily, how it commits itself strategically and militarily in distant regions, Middle East वगैरह इन सब में वो क्या करेगा. So I think that is the whole game. But as of today, in the Middle East or West Asia, Israel is unchallenged militarily. और एक मैं last point कहना चाहूंगा, it is about in recent times how countries have leveraged their instrument of force has been very salient. Russia को देखो क्या है, $2 trillion economy. It's beating the West, which is $41 trillion, because it has leveraged its instrument of force smartly. Similar, Israel has a $1 trillion economy, but since it's got a sharp instrument of force, सब डरते हैं उससे. But the last point is this, that the force has a utility up to a point. Beyond the point, it becomes seductive and alluring. तो अब इसराइल को ये समझना है कि साहब, beyond this point, is it becoming so seductive that I'm using it, I'm not drawing the right line? Because then if it gets the whole Arab world together and the GCC together and they get in other players to, secure them, that will have an impact on West Asia. But though Saudi Arabia has chosen Pakistan, I think Pakistan will benefit more than Saudi Arabia. पाकिस्तान क्या देगा सऊदी अरेबिया को, क्या वो जहाज वहाज कितने हैं उनके पास. But yes, Saudi Arabia will give Pakistan money, they will give them oil, and which will help to fuel Pakistan.
So the game is Pachis troops are already landing in Saudi Arabia, sir, for the Yemeni front.
But the problem is that when those troops suffer casualties, it has a bearing on domestic politics. सब लोग उठेंगे. The ghost of Imran Khan will rise. There'll be problems.
ये तो खत्म है, sir. I mean, this is and we could actually end this wonderful conversation on Pakistan itself. You know, interestingly, since the morning, Pakistanis are saying, "Oh, look at our importance. We've done deals with you." I'm like, oh God, you guys really don't realize what you've done. But so when you see what has been done with Pakistan in terms of crypto, chipto, and all that, they made Trump. There's a, and by the way, the same thing is happening in Myanmar right now. I can send you some details. I did a deep dive into Myanmar and what the US Special Forces and all these guys are doing there.
You're absolutely right. In fact, you must do a show on that. The American
I've done it,
presence is
I
money
did
in
it. I did it last night. As a matter of fact, I have dug out the fact Eric Prince and Blackwaters is there, and there's a whole kachara which is happening there. So the whole BCCI kind of operations has started up there. It's already started. There are enough telltale signs and stuff.
वहाँ पे भी there is this whole Christian angle. They are aligning with the Christian forces.
Yeah. So when you and that's basically, sir, from Rakhine to they want to go create a pathway from Rakhine into Chin to Shagang into Kachin and come back down, crossing the good old Riedel road, cross it somewhere around the north, head into Kachin and get your rare earths out. And who's going to kind of do this? The Blackwater. So it's basically that. So when you look at Pakistan, the Munir Saab has become where all and all of this thing, and it's acceptable right now. And Pakistan का सर ग्राफ ऐसे ही चलता है. जब वो ऊपर चढ़ता है तो it's a steep rise, but then when it falls, it's a slow, painful decline for Pakistan. It goes on for years. The rise goes up 2 years, and then the next 10 years or 5-6 years, it is painful for them because of the mistakes that they made in these 2 years. एक तो आपने अपने ट्रूप्स बेच दिए वहां पर, ऊपर से यू गेटिंग हैमर्ड एट होम, एंड द अमेरिकन्स प्लेड अ डबल क्रॉस. नाउ यहाँ पर वो बागराम का तो गेम अलग है सर. बलोच लिबरेशन आर्मी को यू गाइस पुट देम एज अ टेररिस्ट ग्रुप इनसाइड द कंट्री, बट देन द मिनट दे वेंट टू द यूएन यू से ना ना ना, ये नहीं करना. दिस इज अ क्लियर डबल क्रॉस. Now, where is this guy gonna left be? Because he's losing trust with China, he's losing trust with America, or he will lose trust with America. We know it's Pakistan. They will do something stupid. ये इसका क्या बचेगा सर? मतलब इसको तो अभी वो बोलते हैं ना, वो दिस इज़ लाइक अ वो बुड्ढा मुर्गा है, इसकी तो हड्डी भी नहीं बचनी इसके बाद।
So see, Pakistan in the overall sense, as I keep saying, is just a pest. It is a pest on your Western horizons. It's not really a power of consequence. But yes, it has got, this trouble value. It needles you here and there. What Pakistan really needs to see is look within. You cannot erect a great nation purely on the basis of military power. That is simply not going to happen. उनमें अंदरूनी कोई दम तो है नहीं. So when they use their leverage in geopolitics, to gain temporary, shall we say, reliefs, वो पहले भी कर चुके हैं. क्या हो रहा था जियाउल हक वगैरह के जमाने में when they were making double crossing the Americans? When Hillary Clinton said that when you grow snakes in your backyards, they'll come to bite you. They have played this game many times and they are playing it again. That is not really a cause for worry for India. India's cause for worry is our ability to create capacities so that we can punch in accord with our weight. Pakistan problem ही अलग है. Pakistan foolishly tries to punch above its weight at the cost of its economy and the cost of democracy. तो टेम्पररी मतलब मुनीर को कैमरा फोकस करेगा, उसके आगे पिंक कारपेट होगी शहबाज शरीफ की, बट दे आर नॉट लीडर्स ऑफ द काइंड व्हिच बिल्ड नेशंस. They just make Pakistan survive. So, I mean, this really doesn't bother me in that sense. But yes, you have to take into account Pakistan on your Western horizons. So, that is one of the realities. One point I wanted to make on your show. Yeah, look at you. We began by saying, look at the great geopolitical challenges in the world. India's biggest challenge today is geopolitics. We are producing so many of these IITians and so many of these technical people. Why don't we get some good minds in geopolitics? Our universities must invest in geopolitics. Our young people must prize geopolitics. Why don't we have Dang Wangs? America is writing 2 books on China a week. Chris Miller, Dan Wang. हमारे यहाँ ये जो सोच क्यों नहीं है geopolitics की? We really have to invest in this, given the nature of challenges beyond us, so that we anticipate these issues and deal with them in a far better manner.
I absolutely agree with you, sir. Because I think there needs to be open debate about this stuff. There needs to be, and apart from that, the whole geopolitical scenario has been just squeezed in by a certain segment of intellectuals.
Yes, yes.
And you can't make head or tail of, if you kind of shut your eye and ask them to speak. They're speaking the same language, but in different words.
Okay. So it needs to get more imaginative. Our whole
There's
statecraft
no
needs.
risk taking. There's no risk taking that anybody will recommend to you. Oh no, 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 we need to be cautious. Are yaar, talwar nikalo ab. And I love the
Endless
fact that
caution.
yeah, Modi ji took out the sword in Operation Sindoor, and no matter what the world said, you did what you had to.
Yes, no doubt.
So for me, that was a
Doubt,
turning
doubt.
point.
Yes.
Closing up, when you look at, I'm going to just swing back to the H1B, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Um, when you look at this H1B thing, and what do you think will be Trump's next step? Because this ain't going to work. If he thinks that this is going to bring India into the table for a trade deal, it's not going to work. What and we are pressing a very important button right now as far as the oil is concerned. And today morning, there's an interesting news. By the way, Aramco has lost 10% of its profits. And I did some analysis to figure out why is he losing that profit base is because the European share has dropped, where we've picked up that European share quite a bit. As a matter of fact, he's lost some share in Africa and all that, where we've picked up. So our refining has, there's been a certain amount of gap. And now Trump has a bit of a challenge because if he reduces the price, shale guys lose money. The Arabs will be pissed off. The Russians won't really mind because there, as it is, extraction is 5, 10, $15. We won't mind because it doesn't really matter to us. We are just refining it. Now, when you look at the oil geopolitical of the entire situation, to me, that's the background of all the tariff. If you don't sell the oil that you're buying, they won't say anything to you. I mean, if you sell the oil to some third world country and this and that, they won't say anything to you. Because you're selling the oil to the Europeans, America loses Europe. So this is a huge leverage, and you're playing this card. Now, how does this game go forward? Because you're not going to lose it. The Europeans are not wanting to lose it. The Saudis are investing in Indian refining capacity. So that's the joke about it. Short term pain for Saudi, long term gain for Saudis, because they know, close by, IMEC, future fit hai. How does this game now go forward? What does Trump do? He's not in a very easy situation.
Of course, Trump has problems, but I think what he's doing is he's putting all these pressures to make India bend on those two issues of agri and dairy, which we can't. Because agri and dairy is the Americans subsidize their agri and dairy heavily. The Europeans do it. Everybody protects their, you know, the farmers and people associated with the dairy industry, fishermen and so on. So I think that is the larger game. ये जो बाकी आपने बातें कही ना, सीधे things will pan out after a while. Today, Trump has the political capital at home to absorb these blips. थोड़ी price बढ़ गई, oil की. In the long term, is this whole MAGA business a solid philosophy? That is it. Long time back, somebody wrote a book, America versus America. America के वो problems हैं. This whole business of Charlie Kirk being shot. There are deep divisions in America on all that Trump is doing. Currently, he is confident that he has the political capital to ride them out. So he is, acting tough with everybody else. H1B पे दो ही चीज कर सकता है. Now that he's announced it, either he sustains it or he gives some Indian specific carve outs. Indians को थोड़ा exemption कर दो ये वो. Now this is all this which he will use in this larger deal making on trade, tariffs, and so on. So as he usually, this is a you first fire a salvo and then say बजाओ इस पे क्या बातचीत होगी, इस पे क्या compromise होगी. तो $100,000 के 50,000 कर दो या इंडियन को कोई carve outs दे दो. But the larger game is this, and that is my view. I may be wrong. America under Trump has ceased to take a strategic view of the world. They are taking a trader's view of the world. तो भाई पैसे आ गए, ये आ गए, ठीक है. India really does not matter in our containing China because we don't want to contain China there. We are happy if China doesn't come into the Western Hemisphere. That is the big change. And if that is the big change, you see, a country of India's size has to stand on its own feet. I mean, in that sense, strategic autonomy should be an abiding lesson. I cannot afford to do this kind of stuff which Pakistan does. Could the Prime Minister have come and stood with Munir in Washington when Trump was inviting him? No Indian political leader can do that. It's just not possible. India has a salience, a gravitas of its own. Its Prime Minister cannot be seen, doing all these photo shoots, which Munir, whenever he's at the beck and call of Trump, जब बुलाता है वो दौड़े चला जाता है. Sometimes for lunch, sometimes for breakfast, sometimes not even for a cup of tea.
Sir, उसका भी बिल लेता होगा. If I know Trump very well, Trump will be charging money for it. साले खाना खिलाया इधर.
But one thing, and when you like him or hate him, Trump has really made the world very interesting.
I'll tell you one thing, sir. What's the deal when the first deal happened with Trump? So Pakistanis get $30 billion of remittances, right? Those remittances won't come in dollars anymore. It'll come in stable coins. Guess who owns that stable coins? WLF. 60% ownership by Donald Trump. You know what he makes, sir? At 1% transaction fees, he makes $300 billion out of Pakistan every year. That's the deal they signed.
Okay, news to me at least, yeah.
That's the deal they signed, sir. So Gerard Beach and Zach Witkoff and all these guys had come to Pakistan on the 25th of April. And they signed this. And then Asim Munir was, as it is, supposed to come there. This particular thing happened, so it became a little icky and murky. So yeah, it's basically money, sir. And it's a dhanda. On that note, sir, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Pleasure talking to
Great
you, sir.
pleasure. All the best to you. See you.
Thank you so much. And to the audience, please like, subscribe, and of course, please support the channel.
See you.
Namaskar.
All the best, Adi. Bye.